Haile Selassie, born Rastafari in 1892, grew up as a young noble in Ethiopia, one of the few African kingdoms that remained free from European colonial rule. Intelligent, ambitious, and politically gifted, he rose to prominence within the imperial system. In 1930, he was crowned Emperor Haile Selassie, the King of Kings, Lord of Lords, Conquering Lion of Judah, a title supported by claims of descent from the biblical King Solomon and the Queen of Sheba. His coronation drew global attention, but something far more extraordinary was happening thousands of miles away in Jamaica. Some Jamaicans interpreted his coronation as the fulfillment of a prophecy made by Marcus Garvey. Look to Africa, where a black king shall be crowned. He shall be the redeemer from this belief. A new spiritual movement was born, Rastafarianism, and Haile Selassie was revered as the living God, the Messiah. The emperor himself never claimed divinity, yet the movement grew rapidly with the rise of reggae music, especially through figures like Bob Marley. His name reached every corner of the world. But in Ethiopia, reality was far more complicated. While celebrated abroad, his rule at home faced enormous challenges. When fascist Italy, under Benito Mussolini, invaded Ethiopia in 1935, Selassie was forced into exile. In 1936, he delivered a powerful speech before the League of Nations, pleading for international support. Though his words did not save Ethiopia immediately, they made him a global symbol of anti-colonial resistance. In 1941, aided by British forces, he returned and reclaimed his throne, emerging as a hero across Africa. Back in power, Haile Selassie launched efforts to modernize Ethiopia. He built schools, expanded infrastructure, and established a new constitution. These reforms impressed foreign observers, but the deeper reality remained stark. Ethiopia was still a deeply unequal, largely feudal society. The aristocracy owned most of the land. Millions lived in poverty. Despite signs of progress, life for ordinary people changed very little. To many citizens, modernization was something they heard about, not something they experienced. Over time, Selassie grew increasingly authoritarian. Political dissent was suppressed, journalists were silenced, and opposition leaders were imprisoned. While Rastafarians continued to worship him as a divine savior, many Ethiopians saw him as distant, unresponsive, and disconnected from their struggles. The contradiction between his global fame and domestic legitimacy widened. The greatest crisis of his reign struck in the early 1970s. A devastating famine ravaged the northern provinces of Wallo and Tigray, killing hundreds of thousands. Even worse, the imperial government tried to conceal the suffering. As shocking images of starvation spread around the world, outrage followed. The international community questioned how a leader worshipped as a god could allow his people to starve. Inside Ethiopia, anger boiled. The famine shattered what remained of Selassie's authority. Protests erupted across the country. Students, workers, and even members of the military demanded change. In 1974, a military committee known as the Derg seized power. Haile Selassie, once revered as a heroic symbol of resistance, was arrested by his own soldiers. He was removed from his palace, not with respect, but with quiet humiliation. There was no negotiation, no exile. He was placed under house arrest, stripped of power and dignity. On August 27, 1975, Haile Selassie died in captivity. The regime claimed he died of natural causes, but evidence later revealed that he had been murdered, reportedly suffocated in his sleep. His body was buried in secret beneath the floor of a palace bathroom, without any ceremony. The man worshipped by millions around the world was laid to rest in silence and obscurity. More than 20 years later, in 2000, his remains were and reburied with honor in Holy Trinity Cathedral in Addis Ababa. The ceremony, though solemn, reopened debate about who Haile Selassie truly was. His legacy remains deeply divided. To Rastafarians, he is still the living God, the Black Messiah, whose spiritual mission transcends earthly death. Many Western admirers continue to view him as a symbol of African independence and dignity. But in Ethiopia, opinions differ sharply. Some remember him as a modernizer who defended the nation's sovereignty. Others see him as an ineffective ruler who presided over vast inequality, ignored starvation, and crushed dissent. Haile Selassie's life is one of the great paradoxes of modern history. He rose from nobility to global icon, worshipped as divine by millions. He became a symbol of anti-colonial struggle and African pride. Yet he also oversaw a country plagued by poverty, famine, and repression, and was ultimately overthrown and killed by his own people. His story reminds us of the fragile line between myth and reality, between reverence and revolt. A man lifted to godhood by faith can still fall like any mortal. In the end, the emperor revered as a deity died powerless, buried in secret by those he once ruled. His rise and his fall stand as a striking lesson. Even those seen as divine are not immune to the judgment of history.